Yeah, you've mentioned a few times there's kind of a theme in the I don't know if this is the right way to characterize it, but the emotional strength that you and your team kind of have to bring to the job to deal with some of the things that your clients, the kids, have been through.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe I want to dig into that a little bit and just kind of ask that open question of how does somebody get there? How does somebody, in your view, and maybe you can speak from personal experience, where does that kind of emotional strength come from that you're able to handle that kind of seeing those kinds of horrendous things, dealing with those kinds of terrible stories, and being able to serve at that level?
It starts with empathy and compassion, and you've got to have that. And nobody really chooses to get into this type of work without really feeling and wanting to impact individuals. Really, I think it takes a ton of experience, and so when we hire folks, we're looking for really a key ingredient is connectivity. Are our staff going to be able to have that ingredient of being able to effectively relay and be there for our kids, and yes, it's going to be a learning curve, and it's a steep one for a lot of folks, because you get the wrath of kids, and if you can imagine somebody coming off of hard drugs and they don't feel very well, and we take away all the escape mechanisms and things that they have, and it can be really tough, and our staff are tasked with this enormous responsibility of keeping these kids safe and connecting well with them, and it's not easy, and they're sometimes the target of wrath.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to understand why, validate the experiences of these kids, and to really get kind of beyond that, and to not take it personally, to almost normalize that experience, and it's hard, and through coaching, through really when we get our staff together and they're able to talk about those experiences, that's where growth takes place for them.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to stay committed to our staff, to let them grow,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes a little bit of time. And really, for us, we have to maintain. We've got to make sure that we don't have a lot of turnover, and really, that's kind of the mark of an effective program, and to be able to maintain good folks,
Mm-hmm.
And not burn them out. And that's a real challenge in this industry.
Mm-hmm. If there was somebody out there in our audience that was maybe in school or maybe even deciding on their future career paths, and they were learning about organizations like Madrona Recovery and thinking, hey, that's something I'd want to do. That's a kind of organization I want to get involved in. What would your recommended path be for them? What would that career path look like to prepare them and get them the experience that they would be a good team member in an organization like yours?
We've seen a few different paths. Internships are great. And with larger established organizations and agencies, you can get those internships. A newer one like us, we're not necessarily in the greatest place to give back in that capacity. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure that we have enough supervision to really make that viable. And we're getting there. Our team is really looking to provide some opportunities, some more opportunities for internships. But there is some exposure that people can get by jumping in, by trying it out, and oftentimes sometimes you don't know if a job is going to be right for you, and if it's not, you move on and you cross that off and say that's not something that's for me. But when you are able to identify a path that makes sense for you, and you take that leap of faith and spend some time and energy and maybe some more education, you can really develop a path. I think it's really important for anybody looking to get further education, graduate school, social workers really need some experience working in the field. And I think it's pretty tough to go from undergrad to graduate school without some exposure,
Mm-hmm.
and for good reason. You spend a lot of time and money, and if you're done with graduate school and it turns out that that work is not for you, it's pretty hard
Sure.
for folks. And likewise with teachers. So going through graduate school education, to see folks that realized at the end of it, this really wasn't for them, it's painful and expensive.
Yeah.
And so try it out, and actually, for the direct care work that we do, there are opportunities to kind of have entry-level exposure to it, and it's a good way to do it. I've seen some great folks who have, started off, deer in the headlights kind of experience when they first begin, and they blossom into outstanding professionals. And so getting into it, seeing if it's for you, it's okay if it's not. Maybe that leads you to a different path that's not too disconnected from what you're doing. But I'm really proud of some of the folks that are younger, that have worked with us, that are moving on and going into graduate school, who had to figure out that, in fact, this work is for them. That's been wonderful to watch.